Since the Toon Turf pilot episode was released, it's put a lot of my theories up for questioning, but this is one that I really wanted to talk about because it's been on my mind ever since watching the first few scenes of Toon Turf. I'm talking about the penguins. You see, when we talked about the penguins before, we were under the impression that they were ruthless and harmful, to the point of leading an underground mafia within Toonville and even having Lucky pay them off, only to watch the pilot and have them be cute and not really menacing, or have any indication of being intelligent enough to run an underground mafia. I mean, sure, we can see them biting Riggy, but half this town doesn't like Riggy. It's not like it's exactly a new opinion. Could it have been that I was wrong? Well, if I were you, I'd hold off from writing those I told you so's in the comments just yet. Because while these penguins can act similar to regular animals, that doesn't dismiss everything we've learnt about them through the documents, not to mention every time Riggy's mentioned them painting a different picture. So could it be that instead of being cute, fuzzy creatures, these penguins are actually masterminds in terms of deception and manipulation, tricking the people of Toonville with their cuteness? Or have I finally gone insane? Well, we're gonna be figuring that out today. But before we do that, please do subscribe. It's free and you can always unsubscribe later. Subscribing is the best way to support my channel, as it allows me to make more videos and helps me reach more milestones. I really want to hit 400k soon, and we get closer and closer to that milestone each day. So if you could just check to see that you are subscribed, that would be great. Thank you, and back to the video. So I'm gonna start this discussion about penguins by talking about an entirely different animal: raccoons. Bear with me for a second. During the show, we get given quite a few news report scenes, and during these scenes, we get given facts about their world through the moving text on the screen. One of those things was the fact that the raccoon population is decreasing and has already fallen by 95%. It's an odd fact to be brought up randomly, especially during the pilot episode. I mean, you only have a finite amount of time to establish the world building, the characters, and the storyline. You can't waste time on filler information, which is why this was so out of place. It seemed random and didn't fit in with any of the other stuff we needed to know about the show, and that made me question it. Why are the raccoons dying out? Well, that was actually answered in the opening credits. As Riggy and Rhonda drove into town, we see a poor raccoon unable to find food, as we pan over to a group of penguins taking over the rest of the trash. Now, this tells us a few things. One of them is the fact that the penguins are likely the reason the raccoons are going extinct, due to invading their environment and taking the resources. And the second thing is that they only recently came to Toonville. Think about it, if the penguins had been there the entire time, the raccoons would have likely adapted to live around them. But due to the suddenness of the infestation of the invasive species, the raccoons simply just couldn't compete. There was no way for them to adapt. But then that brings up another question. Where did they come from, and why are they here? To figure this out, let's look at the way the penguins act. Sure, I was just describing them earlier on as a more advanced version of raccoons, but there's a little more to it. We can also see them enjoying music or partaking in art, and having a few other hobbies and personalities of their own. In the Dano Draws channel, we can also see them talking. It's quite peculiar why these ones are staying silent in the show. Is it just that a couple of penguins know how to talk? Is it possible that within the last 6 or 7 years, the penguins miraculously adapted to be able to talk? And no, that wasn't a 6-7 joke. The show takes place in 2019. The penguins start talking in an arc set in 2025, if I can recall correctly. It was a valid estimation of time. Shush. Moving on, I find it hard to believe that the penguins would adapt to talk that quickly, unless they could already talk and they're just not, for some reason. They also seem to be good at manipulation, at least according to Riggy. In the Toon Turf Doodle book, Riggy talks about how they use their cuteness to their advantage to lure people in so they disregard the penguins as a threat. It's quite a smart tactic, which shows they know how to manipulate people into believing they're just harmless creatures, which we know they're not. But since they already seem so advanced and intelligent, why are they living in the trash? Why not use these varying skill sets to truly implement themselves into Toonville society instead of taking over raccoon territory? Do they just prefer to live in the trash? Well, I think there's a reason for this. And I think there's a reason they don't show how smart they are or how they can interact with the community on that level. I think they're pretending to be animals. No, wait, I know they're penguins and I know they're already animals, but I mean like animals. Does that make sense? No? Okay, let me explain. The Tooniverse seems to have two sets of animal types. Ones that act like people and ones that act like, well, animals. In fact, you can see that they're sometimes both. We've seen Riggy have a pet pig called Jimmy, and in the lead up to Toonturf, we've seen designs for pig characters. I think that due to their size and the fact they aren't native to Toonville, it would be easy for the penguins to disguise themselves as the latter. I'm suggesting that it's possible all the penguins of Toonville are pretending to be less smart and more animalistic to not draw attention to themselves. And yes, I'm also suggesting that even Billy's teal pet penguin Copernicus is living a secret double life. Yes, Copernicus the penguin, or Perny for short. Perny the penguin is living a secret double life that his owner doesn't know about, and wait a minute. But then why? Why act like regular animals? Surely you would rather choose to live like a person, stay in a house instead of rummaging through the trash outside. Well, I think it's the perfect cover. Toonville is already chock full of crime, which is why the police would constantly be on the lookout for suspicious activity. But you don't tend to look for suspicious activity in animals, which can allow their crimes to fly a bit more under the radar. And in terms of the turf wars, you can't exactly claim turf from vermin, especially not this kind. The main reason why the raccoons are facing a population crisis is due to the fact that the penguins are taking all the resources. The penguins are larger, they're smarter, and they have numbers on their side. Now, quick question, have you ever tried to get rid of a raccoon? Because it's not easy! In fact, raccoons are extremely territorial and won't give it up for anything. So you can imagine anyone with a basic knowledge on raccoons wouldn't want to go near those areas taken over by the animals that beat the raccoons. Which, again, if you're dealing with turf wars, claiming areas where rival gangs won't enter without a second thought because they don't want to deal with violent vermin is the perfect outcome. Especially if you're actually part of the mafia. Okay, stay with me on this because I promise it's worth it. Now at this point I might have convinced you that the penguins are a lot smarter than they want to appear. But to claim that they're part of the mafia is quite a massive jump, but there is some evidence for it. Now if you don't know, Toonville has a mafia, appropriately named the Toonville Mafia, and we learn this through Squeaker. Okay, for those of us just joining in and only seeing the Toonturf pilot, allow me to explain. On the Dano Draws channel, Riggy revealed that he got his kidney stolen by a penguin named Squeaker while he was in prison. We learn a bit more about Squeaker through a confidential file that was also shared on the Dano Draws channel. We learn about his steroid use, which wasn't too surprising. We learn the fact that he's obvious muscle for the Toonville Mafia, which also wasn't too surprising given the steroid use. We learned that he was possibly blackmailed, had a run-in with Riggy despite Riggy not reporting it, and hid codes within prison letters. Now, I think this is the first and only time we've heard about the Toonville Mafia, and ever since I first heard about it, it sort of changed my perspective on the Toonville Penguins, because I don't think Squeaker is the only one who's part of the Mafia. I think they all are. I think the Penguins run the Toonville Mafia. It also might be possible that the Penguins know about the prophecy and them destroying Riggy's stuff wasn't random happenstance at all. It was actually a Mafia hit. At the beginning of the episode, we see a penguin painting a purple fire. Now, this could just be a bit of Dano's foreshadowing about what's going to happen in the show, but then you've got to account for the idea that the penguins all want to attack Riggy, even so-called domesticated ones like Copernicus. It might be a bit of a stretch, but could it be they're trying to keep him out of Toonville because of the prophecy? In some of my older theories, I even talk about the idea that Lucky had connections to the Mafia and could have well called this in. And it might explain Riggy's hatred for penguins further down the line, because of course he's mad at them for destroying his stuff here, but at this point he doesn't think they're completely aware. He just believes they're annoying animals. So if he finds out in the future that they were aware and they still destroyed his stuff intentionally, it might explain his hatred for them a little bit more. Now, is any of this evidence extremely conclusive? Well, no. Other than Squeaker, we've got nothing else to go on about the Toonville Mafia. In fact, we don't know if it's all penguins. In his file, we know that something happened to Squeaker's family, and he could possibly be being blackmailed. Could it be possible that he's the only penguin in the Mafia for that reason? He was just blackmailed into it and it had nothing to do with the fact he was a penguin? It is possible, but I do think we need to know more about the Toonville Mafia before we make any specific conclusions. But my gut is telling me that they're all in on it. All the penguins could be a part of this mafia. It's the only reason I can think they would go through all this trouble pretending to be wild animals so they could fly under the radar. Because to do all that, you have to be hiding something big. And I think the Toonville Mafia is that thing. The penguins moved to Toonville because they could see an opportunity to both fly under the radar and build one of the biggest crime rings in a known crime-ridden town, all while ensuring they're not taken down by police force or rival gangs. They moved to Toonville for power. Power they could obtain while hiding in plain sight. So what do you guys think? Are we on to something here? Thank you guys so much for watching. These videos are always fun for me to make, so it's great to know that you guys enjoy them as well. Thank you to my members. Once again, your support for this channel is why I can continue to make videos, and I appreciate it so much. But if you can't be a member, that's okay. I'm so thankful to everyone who subscribed. Thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!